Rain poured down like the sky had opened up all at once. Maya stood under the hospital's tiny awning, trying to shield her baby girl from the cold drops that kept sneaking through. Little Lily was only 6 months old and had been crying for the past hour. The sound broke Maya's heart into smaller and smaller pieces. Her phone screen was black, dead. No battery left to call anyone or check where her ride was. She'd been waiting for almost 2 hours now, and the last bus had already gone. The $23 in her wallet wouldn't get them a taxi home. Not even close. Maya felt that familiar tightness in her chest, the one that came when she didn't know what to do next. She bounced Lily gently, humming a soft tune her own mother used to sing. The baby's cries turned into small hiccups. At least that was something. Maya's thin jacket was soaked through, and her sneakers made squishy sounds when she shifted her weight. She'd been at the hospital all day for Lily's checkup, and the appointments had run late. Everything always ran late when you didn't have money or connections. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb right in front of her. Not just any car, but one of those expensive ones that looked like it cost more than Maya would earn in 5 years. The windows were tinted dark, and rain slid off its polished surface like the car was too good to get wet. The back door was unlocked, slightly open. Maya remembered requesting a ride earlier before her phone died. This had to be it, right? The driver must have gotten her message somehow. She didn't stop to think. Her baby was cold and crying, she was exhausted, and here was a way home. She pulled open the door and climbed into the back seat, careful not to bump Lily's head. The interior smelled like leather and something expensive she couldn't name. It was warm inside, so warm that Maya almost cried with relief. She settled Lily against her chest, wrapping her jacket around the baby's small body. The driver said nothing, just pulled away from the curb smoothly. Maya was too busy trying to calm her daughter to notice they weren't heading toward her neighborhood. "Shh, sweet girl, we're going home now," Maya whispered, kissing Lily's damp forehead. The baby's big brown eyes blinked up at her, tears still clinging to her eyelashes. Maya dug through her diaper bag for the pacifier, finding it buried under spare diapers and a nearly empty formula container. The car moved through streets Maya didn't recognize, but she figured maybe the driver was taking a different route because of traffic. She was so tired her eyes kept wanting to close. When had she last slept a full night? Probably before Lily was born. Between working double shifts at the diner and taking care of a baby alone, sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford. The car slowed down and stopped. Maya looked up, expecting to see her run-down apartment building. Instead, she saw a tower of glass and steel reaching up into the rainy sky. Lights sparkled from windows that probably cost more per month than she made in a year. Confusion washed over her. This couldn't be right. Before she could say anything, the driver got out and opened the rear door. But not her door, the other one. A man slid into the seat beside her, bringing with him a wave of cologne and authority that filled the small space. Maya's breath caught in her throat. He was tall, even sitting down she could tell. His suit probably cost more than her car used to before it broke down for good. Dark hair styled perfectly, sharp jawline, and eyes that looked like they could see right through a person. Those eyes landed on her now, cold and demanding. "Who are you?" His voice was deep, controlled, and absolutely not happy. "What are you doing in my car?" Maya's stomach dropped to her feet. Oh no, no. This wasn't her ride. This was someone else's car. Someone important. Someone who looked like he could ruin her life with a single phone call. "I'm so sorry," Maya stammered, already gathering Lily's diaper bag with shaking hands. "I thought this was my ride. My phone died and I was waiting and I just assumed. I'm so sorry, I'll get out right now." The driver appeared at the open door, his face pale. "Mr. Chen, I'm so sorry, sir. I left the car running while I went back for your briefcase and I didn't see her get in. It won't happen again, Mr. Chen." Maya had heard that name before. Everyone in the city had. He owned half the buildings downtown, ran some huge company that was always in the news, and she'd just climbed into his car like it was a city bus. She moved to slide out of the car, trying to protect Lily from the rain that was coming down even harder now. But then something unexpected happened. Lily, who had finally stopped crying, reached out her tiny hands toward the stranger. Her face broke into a gummy smile, and she made that happy, gurgling sound that usually only came out for Maya. Mr. Chen stared at the baby like she was something he'd never seen before. His expression shifted just for a second. Something soft flickered across his face before the coldness came back. But Maya had seen it. Whatever wall he kept up had cracked just a tiny bit. The moment stretched out. Rain drummed on the car roof. The driver stood waiting. Lily kept reaching toward Mr. Chen, her small fingers opening and closing. "Where were you trying to go?" Mr. Chen asked finally, his voice slightly less sharp than before. "The east side," Maya said quietly, "near Morrison Street. But really I can find another way." "I shouldn't have." "Morrison Street." He frowned. "That's across the city. In this rain, with a baby?" He looked at her properly then, seeming to notice her soaked clothes and worn shoes for the first time. His eyes moved to Lily, taking in the second-hand baby clothes and the diaper bag that was held together with safety pins. "I'll manage," Maya said, lifting her chin. Pride was about all she had left. "I always do." For a long moment, Mr. Chen said nothing. He seemed to be having some kind of internal argument with himself. His jaw clenched and unclenched. Finally, he let out a breath and looked at his driver. "Take us to Morrison Street." "The east side, sir?" The driver sounded surprised. "You heard me." Mr. Chen's tone left no room for discussion. He looked at Maya, his expression unreadable. "Sit back. Put on your seatbelt." Maya's hands trembled as she buckled the seatbelt around herself and Lily. She couldn't believe this was happening. Men like him didn't help people like her. There had to be a catch. There was always a catch. As the car pulled away from the curb heading into the rainy night, Maya held Lily close and wondered what she'd just gotten herself into. The baby had fallen asleep against her chest, peaceful now, completely unaware that their lives had just taken a turn into something neither of them could have imagined. Sometimes the wrong door leads to the right place, but Maya didn't know that yet. All she knew was that the most powerful man in the city was sitting beside her in silence, and she had absolutely no idea why he'd decided to help. 3 weeks had passed since that rainy night, but Maya couldn't stop thinking about it. Mr. Chen had driven her all the way home without saying much. When they'd arrived at her building with its cracked windows and peeling paint, he'd looked at it for a long moment. Then he'd handed her a business card through the driver before leaving. Just like that. No explanation. No conditions. Maya had thrown the card away that same night. She didn't need charity from rich men who probably helped people to feel better about themselves. She'd survived this long on her own, and she'd keep surviving. That's what she told herself as she worked double shifts at the diner, as she stretched every dollar until it screamed, as she patched Lily's clothes one more time instead of buying new ones. But life has a way of teaching you that pride doesn't pay hospital bills. It started with a fever. Not a big one at first, just Lily feeling a little warm. Maya gave her some medicine and hoped it would pass. It didn't. By midnight, the baby was burning up, her tiny body shaking. Maya's neighbor drove them to the emergency room, and Maya sat in those harsh fluorescent lights, praying to anyone who would listen. The doctors stabilized Lily, they ran tests, kept her overnight, pumped her with fluids and antibiotics. They said she'd be fine, that she'd caught some infection, but they'd treated it in time. Maya cried with relief, holding her daughter's small hand through the hospital crib rails. Then they handed her the bill. Maya stared at the numbers. They didn't seem real. How could keeping a baby alive for 2 days cost more than she'd earned in 3 months? She tried to set up a payment plan, but even the monthly amounts were more than her rent. The billing department woman looked at her with tired sympathy and said they'd need at least half up front before Lily could be discharged. Maya sat in the hospital cafeteria at 3 in the morning, coffee gone cold in front of her, trying not to completely fall apart. She'd called everyone she knew. No one had that kind of money. The diner where she worked couldn't give her an advance on months of future paychecks. The bank had laughed at her loan application. She found herself digging through her apartment's small trash can when she got home to grab clean clothes. That's where she found it, stained with coffee grounds but still readable. The business card. Mr. Chen's private number written in pen on the back. Her hands shook as she dialed. It was 4 in the morning. He wouldn't answer. Rich people didn't answer phones at 4 in the morning for strangers they'd driven home once. The phone rang once, twice. "This is Chen." His voice was alert, like he hadn't been sleeping. Maya's courage almost failed her. "Mr. Chen, this is Maya from the car. 3 weeks ago, you gave me your card and I'm sorry to call so late, but I didn't know who else. What's wrong?" He cut through her rambling, his tone sharp but not unkind. She told him everything. The words poured out like water from a broken dam. Lily's fever, the hospital, the bill she couldn't pay. The fact that they wouldn't release her baby until she came up with money she didn't have. She hated how desperate she sounded. Hated that she was doing this. But sometimes love makes you swallow your pride. Mr. Chen was quiet for a moment after she finished. I'll handle it. Which hospital? I can't let you just... Which hospital, Maya? She told him. He hung up. Maya sat there holding her dead phone, wondering if she'd just made everything worse somehow. 20 minutes later, the hospital called. The bill had been paid in full. They could bring Lily home whenever she was ready. Maya cried again, but this time from something that felt too big to name. Relief, gratitude, shame, all of it mixed together. She thought that would be the end of it. A kind gesture from a wealthy man who could spare the change. But 2 days later, Mr. Chen's driver appeared at her apartment door with an envelope. Inside was a letter written in sharp, precise handwriting. The letter said he had a proposition. His assistant's sister was moving to the city for 6 months with her young son. They needed someone to help with childcare during the transition period. The pay was more than Maya made in 3 months at the diner, room and board included, in a guest suite at his penthouse. She could bring Lily. If she was interested, the driver would bring her tomorrow for an interview. Maya read the letter 5 times. This didn't make sense. People didn't just offer opportunities like this to strangers. There had to be a catch. But then she looked at Lily, playing with a stuffed animal that had seen better days, and thought about the overdue rent notice on her counter. About the empty spot in the fridge where food should be. About the fact that winter was coming and Lily had already outgrown her warm clothes. She went to the interview. The penthouse was everything Maya had imagined and more. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that looked like art, silence so complete it felt like luxury itself. Mr. Chen's assistant, a kind woman named Grace, showed her around and explained the position. Except Maya noticed something odd. Grace seemed surprised by certain details, like she was learning about this job at the same time Maya was. And there was no sign of any sister or her son anywhere in the huge apartment. No toys, no children's rooms being prepared, nothing. Mr. Chen arrived home while Grace was showing Maya the guest suite. He appeared in the doorway, still in his business suit, looking exactly as imposing as he had in the car. But when Lily saw him, she squealed with delight, reaching out just like she had that rainy night. Against all odds, his expression softened. Just slightly, but Maya saw it. The position is yours if you want it, he said, not quite meeting her eyes. You'd start Monday. Bring whatever you need. The suite is fully furnished, but if there's anything else required for the baby, make a list for Grace. Maya wanted to ask about the sister, about the child she'd be watching, about why he was really doing this, but she'd learned that sometimes you don't question good fortune, especially when you have a daughter counting on you. I'll take it, she said quietly. Thank you. He nodded once and left the room. Grace gave Maya a curious look but said nothing. As the driver took her back to her apartment, Maya held Lily close and wondered what she'd just agreed to. That night she packed their few belongings into 2 garbage bags and 1 old suitcase. Everything they owned in the world fit easily. As she looked around the tiny apartment with its thin walls and questionable heating, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. What she didn't know was that there was no sister. No visiting child. Mr. Chen had created the entire position because something about her and Lily had stayed with him since that rainy night. For 3 years, he'd kept everyone at arm's length. His heart frozen solid after his ex-fiancée had shattered his dreams of family. He'd sworn never to let anyone close again. But Lily's tiny hands reaching out to him had cracked something open. And Maya's fierce love for her daughter, despite having nothing, had reminded him what real strength looked like. He didn't understand it himself. He only knew that helping them felt like the first right thing he'd done in years. Monday morning came. Maya stood in front of the building with her bags, Lily on her hip, looking up at the tower of glass and steel that would be their home. She took a deep breath and walked through the doors, carrying her daughter toward a future neither of them could have imagined. Sometimes the help we need comes from the most unexpected places, wearing the most unexpected faces. Living in the penthouse felt like stepping into a different world. Maya had a bedroom bigger than her entire old apartment. The bathroom had heated floors. Heated floors. She'd stood there the first morning, feeling the warmth under her feet, and almost cried at how something so simple could feel so incredible. Lily thrived immediately. Regular meals, a warm place to sleep, toys that weren't held together with tape. The baby grew plumper, happier, her laugh filling the quiet spaces of the enormous apartment. Maya watched her daughter bloom like a flower finally getting sunlight and felt grateful in a way that made her chest ache. But Mr. Chen remained a mystery. He left before sunrise and came home after dark. Some nights Maya heard him come in past midnight, his footsteps quiet in the hallway. He never asked about the imaginary child she was supposed to be watching. She never brought it up. They existed in the same space like ghosts, aware of each other but never quite connecting. Maya kept the penthouse spotless, cooked meals that Mr. Chen rarely ate, and took care of Lily. Grace had quietly explained that Maya should just focus on settling in and being available if needed. It was the strangest job she'd ever had, but the money hit her account every week like clockwork, so she didn't complain. 3 weeks into this new arrangement, everything changed. Maya woke up feeling awful. Her throat was raw, her head pounded, and her body ached like she'd been hit by a truck. The flu, probably. She dragged herself out of bed anyway because Lily needed her morning bottle. But halfway through feeding her daughter, Maya's hands started shaking so badly she nearly dropped the baby. She managed to get Lily into her crib before stumbling back to bed. The fever hit fast and hard. Maya tried to get up several times, hearing Lily crying in the next room, but her legs wouldn't work properly. Everything spun. She reached for her phone to call Grace, but it slipped through her fingers. The last thing she remembered was Lily's cries getting louder and more desperate. She didn't know that Mr. Chen had come home early for the first time in weeks. He'd had a brutal day of meetings and wanted to grab some files from his home office. The sound of Lily's screaming stopped him in the hallway. The baby never cried like that, not the desperate, terrified sound that was coming from Maya's suite. He knocked. No answer. The crying got worse. He opened the door, breaking his own rule about respecting Maya's privacy. Maya was unconscious in bed, burning with fever. Lily was in her crib, her face red from crying, reaching toward her mother who couldn't come. Mr. Chen stood frozen for a moment. He knew nothing about babies, nothing about sick people, nothing about any of this. His instinct was to call Grace, call a doctor, call someone who knew what to do. But Lily saw him and reached out her tiny hands, just like she always did. The crying intensified, her whole body shaking with sobs. Something in his chest twisted painfully. He picked up the baby. She was warm and damp with tears, and she clung to his expensive suit jacket with desperate little fists. Mr. Chen had never held a baby before. Not really. That night in the car didn't count. This was different. This tiny human was depending on him, and he had no idea what he was doing. "Okay," he said quietly, his voice uncertain. "Okay, it's all right." Lily's crying softened to hiccups. She looked up at him with those big brown eyes so trusting it terrified him. He called his personal doctor for Maya, then stood there holding Lily, swaying slightly because he'd seen people do that with babies. It seemed to work. She settled against his chest, one small hand gripping his collar. The doctor came and treated Maya. Severe flu, dehydration, complete exhaustion. She needed rest and fluids. She'd be okay in a few days. Mr. Chen nodded, still holding Lily, who had fallen asleep against his shoulder. That night, he learned more about babies than he'd ever wanted to know. Grace talked him through bottles and diapers over the phone, her voice carefully neutral. He burned the first bottle, made the second one too cold, and finally got the third one right. Lily drank it while studying his face with intense concentration, like she was trying to figure him out. Changing a diaper was a disaster. He used half a pack before getting it right. Lily seemed to find his incompetence amusing, giving him gummy smiles that made him feel both ridiculous and somehow accomplished. He worked from his home office that night with Lily in a baby bouncer beside his desk. She'd fuss. He'd bounce the seat with his foot while reading contracts. She'd drift off, wake up, and he'd give her a toy. They developed a rhythm. Around midnight, Maya appeared in the doorway, pale and shaking. "Lily," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "She's fine," Mr. Chen said, glancing up from his laptop. Lily was asleep in the bouncer, one fist curled near her face. "You should be in bed. I can take her. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Sit down before you fall down." His tone was sharp, but he stood and guided her to the leather couch in his office. The doctor said you need rest. I can handle a baby for one night. You don't have to do this, Maya said, tears sliding down her face. She was so tired and sick and hated feeling helpless. This isn't what you're paying me for. Mr. Chen looked at her for a long moment. Go to sleep, Maya. I'll wake you if I need you. But he didn't wake her. Over the next 3 days, as Maya slowly recovered, Mr. Chen came home earlier each evening. He'd check on her, then take over with Lily. At first, Maya protested, but she was too weak to argue much, and there was something strange about watching this powerful, cold businessman carefully warming bottles and talking softly to her daughter. On the 4th night, Maya felt well enough to join them for dinner. She'd made soup, something simple she could manage. Mr. Chen came home at 6 instead of midnight and looked surprised to see her up. You're feeling better, he said, setting down his briefcase. Lily, playing on a mat nearby, squealed when she saw him and raised her arms. He picked her up without thinking, and Maya watched something in his expression soften. Thank you, Maya said quietly. For taking care of her. For taking care of both of us. They ate together, Lily in a high chair between them, making a mess of mashed bananas. It should have been awkward, but it wasn't. Mr. Chen asked Maya about her day. She asked about his work. Normal conversation, like normal people, except nothing about this was normal. After dinner, they ended up in the living room. Maya turned on a movie, something light and funny. Lily crawled between them on the huge couch, playing with blocks. Somewhere during the movie, the baby fell asleep, sprawled across both their laps, one hand on Maya's arm, one on Mr. Chen's. Neither of them moved, afraid to wake her. The movie played on. Maya glanced over and found Mr. Chen looking at Lily with an expression that made her breath catch. Not the cold CEO face, something vulnerable and raw and real. I had a fiancé once, he said suddenly, his voice low. 3 years ago. We were planning a wedding, talking about the future. She got pregnant. Maya stayed quiet, sensing he needed to say this. She didn't want it. Didn't want any of it, actually. She wanted her career, her freedom, her life without complications. His hand rested gently on Lily's back. She ended the pregnancy and left me for someone else, someone who wanted the same thing she did. No mess, no commitments, no children. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. I told myself I'd never be that vulnerable again, never let anyone close enough to destroy me. He looked at Maya then, and she saw pain in his eyes that matched her own. I built walls so high that nothing could touch me. Maya understood walls. She'd built her own after Lily's father had shown his true colors. After her family had turned their backs on her. After she'd learned that sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones who hurt you most. What happened to you? Mr. Chen asked. Lily's father? Maya's jaw tightened. He didn't like that I wouldn't get rid of her. Said I was trapping him, ruining his life. He gave me $500 and told me to handle it. She looked down at her sleeping daughter. My family agreed with him, said I was throwing my life away, so I left with nothing and never looked back. You built a life anyway, he said. Alone, that takes incredible strength. I didn't have a choice. When it's your kid, you find a way. They sat in silence, the movie playing unnoticed, Lily sleeping peacefully between them. The rain had started again outside, drops tapping against the massive windows. Mr. Chen reached across Lily and took Maya's hand. Just held it. Neither of them spoke. Something had shifted. They both felt it. The walls they'd built so carefully were cracking, and the light getting through was both terrifying and wonderful. Maya knew she was falling for him. She also knew how dangerous that was. Men like him didn't end up with women like her. Not in real life, but his hand was warm in hers. And Lily was safe and sleeping, and for this one moment, Maya let herself imagine that maybe, just maybe, broken people could help each other heal. The next few weeks felt like living in a dream Maya was afraid to wake up from. Mr. Chen came home earlier each day. They'd have dinner together, the three of them, like a real family. He'd sit on the floor and play with Lily, his expensive suits getting covered in drool and baby food. Maya would watch them and feel her heart do dangerous things. He'd started asking her to call him by his first name, Daniel. It felt intimate, like crossing an invisible line. But she did it, and every time his name left her lips, something warm flickered in his eyes. They'd talk late into the night after Lily went to sleep. About everything and nothing. Books they'd read, places they wanted to visit, dreams they'd given up on. Daniel told her about building his company from almost nothing, about the pressure and loneliness that came with success. Maya shared her secret love of photography, how she'd once dreamed of traveling the world with a camera before life had other plans. One Saturday, Daniel didn't go to the office at all. He spent the whole day with them, and it was perfect in a way that scared Maya. They went to the park, and she took pictures on her old phone while Daniel pushed Lily on the baby swings. Ordinary people doing ordinary things, except nothing about this was ordinary. That evening, Maya was giving Lily a bath when she heard the elevator ding. Daniel never used the main elevator, always came through the private one. Her stomach tightened with sudden worry. She heard voices, a woman's voice, high and sharp, echoing through the penthouse. "Where is he? Daniel!" "I know you're here." Maya wrapped Lily in a towel and held her close, her heart pounding. She shouldn't go out there. This was none of her business. But something in that voice made her skin crawl with instinct. She cracked open the bathroom door to listen. "Victoria, you can't just show up here." Daniel's voice was cold, colder than Maya had heard in weeks. "How did you even get up here?" "I told the doorman I was your fiancé, which I should be if you'd just listened to me back then." The woman's heels clicked across the marble floor. "Where is she? This mysterious woman everyone's talking about? And the baby?" Maya's blood went cold. She held Lily tighter. "That's none of your concern," Daniel said, his tone sharp as broken glass. "None of my concern? Daniel, the entire city is talking about it. You, the man who swore he'd never let anyone close again, living with some random woman and her child?" Victoria's laugh was cruel. "I came back for you, and this is what I find." Maya should have stayed hidden, should have kept Lily in the bathroom until this woman left. But she heard the contempt in Victoria's voice, the assumption that Maya was nothing, and something in her snapped. She'd spent too many years being treated like she didn't matter. She dressed Lily quickly and walked out into the living room, chin up even though her hands were shaking. Victoria was exactly what Maya expected. Tall, thin, perfect. Designer dress, designer bag, designer everything. The kind of woman who belonged in penthouses and on magazine covers. She looked at Maya like she was looking at something stuck to her expensive shoe. "So this is the help," Victoria said, her lips curling. "I have to say, Daniel, I expected better taste, even for charity cases." "Victoria." Daniel's voice was a warning, but the woman ignored him. "Let me guess. Sob story? Poor single mother, nowhere to go. And you, with your savior complex, just couldn't resist." Victoria circled Maya like a predator. "Did you think you could actually fit into his world? Look at you. Look at this place. You're playing dress-up in a life that will never be yours." Every word hit like a punch. Maya knew she didn't belong here. She'd always known. But hearing it said out loud with such venom made something inside her crack. "That's enough." Daniel moved between them, his body blocking Victoria's view of Maya. "You need to leave now. I'm not going anywhere until you explain yourself." Victoria's voice turned sweet, syrupy. "Daniel, I made a mistake. I see that now. I was young and scared and stupid. But I've grown up. I'm ready for everything you wanted. Marriage, family, all of it." She tried to touch his arm. "We can start over. Send her away and let's fix this." Maya felt like she couldn't breathe. This was it, the moment she'd been dreading. Victoria was offering him everything he'd once wanted. Everything Maya could never give him. She was educated, wealthy, from his world. She knew which fork to use at fancy dinners and how to talk to important people. What was Maya? A waitress with a baby and 2 garbage bags of belongings. She turned to leave, to pack, to run before she fell any deeper. But Lily started crying, reaching back toward Daniel with desperate hands. "Dada," the baby babbled. "Dada." Everyone froze. Lily had never said that before. The word hung in the air like something precious and fragile. "She's not even yours," Victoria said, her voice disgusted. "You're playing house with someone else's child. Don't you see how pathetic that is?" Something in Daniel's face changed. Not anger, though there was that too. Something deeper, more fundamental.
"Get out," he said quietly.
"And don't come back." "Daniel, be reasonable. Out." The word echoed through the penthouse. "You don't get to come back after 3 years and tell me what my life should look like. You don't get to insult Maya or imply that Lily is anything less than precious. You made your choice. Live with it." Victoria's face twisted with rage and something else. Hurt, maybe, or wounded pride. She grabbed her bag. "You're making a huge mistake. She'll drag you down. The board already questions your judgment. Your investors are worried. This little fantasy will cost you everything you've built. Then let it cost me, Daniel said. Some things are worth more than money. Victoria looked between them one last time, then left in a storm of expensive perfume and clicking heels. The silence after the elevator doors closed was deafening. Maya still couldn't breathe. She should be happy, relieved. But all she could think about was what Victoria had said. The board. The investors. Maya was hurting him just by being here. Everything he'd worked for at risk because of her. I should pack, she whispered, not looking at him. I should take Lily and go. What? Daniel turned to her. Maya, no. She's right. The words hurt coming out. I don't belong here. I'm not part of your world. People are talking, judging you. I'm making your life harder. Tears burned her eyes. And what are we doing, really? Playing pretend? You and me, we're from different planets. This was always going to end. Is that what you think? Daniel's voice was rough. That this is pretend? Isn't it? Maya finally looked at him, tears spilling over. I'm the broken girl you felt sorry for. You helped me because you're a good person, because Lily reminded you of what you lost. But I'm not her. I'm not Victoria. I'm just someone you took pity on, and I was stupid enough to forget that. Daniel crossed the room in 3 strides. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away her tears. You think I did this out of pity? Maya, I created that job. There was never any nephew. I made it up because I couldn't stop thinking about you, about Lily, about how you loved her so fiercely even when you had nothing. Maya's heart stuttered. What? You're not a replacement for what Victoria took from me. You're not a charity case. You're the first real thing in my life in 3 years. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. I'm falling in love with you. With both of you. And it terrifies me because I swore I'd never feel this way again. Before Maya could respond, before she could think, he kissed her. It wasn't gentle or uncertain. It was desperate, like he was trying to prove something they both needed to believe. Maya kissed him back, one hand still holding Lily, the other gripping his shirt like he might disappear. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Lily giggled and patted both their faces with her small hands. Dada, she said again, clear as day, grinning like she'd accomplished something amazing. Daniel laughed, the sound full of wonder and joy and something that sounded like relief. He took Lily from Maya's arms and held them both, one arm around each of them. My girls, he said softly. Maya wanted to believe it. Wanted to believe this could last. But Victoria's words echoed in her head. The board. The investors. The life he'd built. Could love really be enough when the whole world was against them? She didn't know. But standing there in his arms with Lily babbling happily between them, she decided that maybe, just maybe, it was worth finding out. Victoria's visit turned out to be just the beginning. Within days, the gossip columns picked up the story. Photos of Daniel with Maya and Lily at the park appeared online. Headlines called Maya everything from a gold digger to a home wrecker. Even though she'd never wrecked anything, the comments were vicious in a way that made Maya's stomach turn. Daniel tried to shield her from it, but Maya saw the strain on his face when he came home from board meetings. She overheard him on the phone, his voice tight with frustration, talking about investors who were threatening to pull funding. Victoria's father, who owned a significant share in Daniel's company, was making noise about removing him as CEO. The professional cost was real and growing. But what hurt most was watching people dismiss what they had. Like their feelings weren't valid because they came from different places. Like Lily didn't matter because she wasn't Daniel's biological child. One night, Maya found Daniel sitting in his home office at 2 a.m, staring at financial reports. The stress had carved new lines around his eyes. She stood in the doorway, her heart breaking. How bad is it? She asked quietly. He looked up, tried to smile. Nothing I can't handle. Daniel. She walked in and sat across from him. Tell me the truth. He sighed, running his hands through his hair. 3 major investors have pulled out. The board called an emergency meeting for next week. Victoria's father is pushing for a vote of no confidence. He met her eyes. They're using you and Lily as evidence that I've lost focus, that I'm making emotional decisions instead of business ones. Maya felt sick. This is my fault. No, his voice was sharp. This is their prejudice, their narrow view of what life should look like. You didn't do anything wrong, but I'm costing you everything you built. Her voice cracked. Maybe we should... Don't. Daniel stood and came around the desk, kneeling in front of her chair. Don't say we should end this. I won't give you up because some people can't see past their own biases. I won't let them win. But your company that can be rebuilt. You and Lily can't be replaced. He took her hands. Maya, I spent 3 years being exactly who they wanted me to be. Cold, focused, alone. And I was miserable. You brought me back to life. Both of you did. That's worth more than any board seat. Maya wanted to believe him, but she'd grown up with nothing and she knew how quickly everything could fall apart. What if you resent me later? When you've lost everything? Then we'll build something new together. Daniel squeezed her hands. I'm not afraid of starting over. I'm only afraid of losing you. The board meeting came. Daniel left that morning in his sharpest suit, his jaw set with determination. Maya spent the day unable to eat, playing with Lily but distracted, checking her phone every 5 minutes even though she knew he'd be in meetings for hours. He came home early, and Maya's heart stopped when she saw his face. He looked exhausted but somehow lighter. Before she could ask, he swept her into his arms and kissed her breathless. I quit, he said when they finally pulled apart. You what? I gave them an ultimatum. Accept my choices or accept my resignation. They chose wrong, so I left. He grinned, and it was the freest she'd ever seen him look. I'm done letting other people control my life. Maya didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Daniel, you just walked away from everything. Not everything. He touched her face gently. I walked away from people who see profit margins instead of human beings. And I walked toward the best decision I've ever made. Over the next weeks, Maya watched Daniel transform. Without the weight of the board and investors, he started working on projects he actually cared about. He built a new company, smaller but focused on what mattered to him. And to Maya's surprise, people followed him. Good people who'd been waiting for a leader who valued humanity over just profit. Money got tighter, at least by his standards. The penthouse was sold, too big, too expensive, too full of his old life. They moved to a brownstone in a regular neighborhood with actual neighbors and a small yard. Maya loved it immediately. Lily could play outside and they could walk to the park. Maya went back to her photography, starting small with family portraits. Daniel encouraged her, even built her a website and spread the word. To her amazement, people hired her. They liked her natural style, the way she captured real moments instead of stiff poses. 6 months after Victoria's dramatic appearance, Daniel proposed. Not at a fancy restaurant or with a huge production. He asked her on a Tuesday night while Lily smashed peas into her high chair tray and both of them were covered in baby food. He pulled out a simple ring, beautiful but not ostentatious, and asked if she'd marry him. Maya said yes through happy tears. Lily clapped her hands and flung peas everywhere, and they all laughed until their sides hurt. The wedding was small. Grace came and a few of Daniel's friends who'd stuck by him. Maya's old neighbor who'd driven them to the hospital that awful night. No fancy venue, just the garden behind their brownstone with flowers Maya had planted herself. When Daniel lifted Lily during the ceremony and said he was marrying both of them, there wasn't a dry eye in the tiny crowd. During the adoption process, the lawyer asked Lily what she wanted her last name to be. The little girl, now almost 2, said Chen clear as day. When the judge approved the adoption, making it official, Daniel cried. Maya had never seen him cry before, but he held Lily and sobbed into her dark curls while she patted his face and said, "No cry, Daddy." Life wasn't perfect. Money was still tighter than Daniel had ever experienced. Maya still had moments of insecurity, wondering if she was enough. They argued sometimes about silly things, about serious things, about the ways their different backgrounds shaped how they saw the world. But they built something real. A home filled with laughter and the chaos of a toddler learning to be a tiny human. Photos covering the walls, Maya's work, capturing their ordinary, extraordinary life. Lily's artwork on the fridge, toys scattered across floors that used to be pristine. 2 years after that rainy night, Maya was pregnant. She'd been terrified to tell Daniel, old fears rising up. But he'd picked her up and spun her around, then immediately apologized and set her down carefully, worried about the baby. They'd laughed and cried and called Lily in to tell her she'd be a big sister. When their son was born, Lily insisted on holding him immediately. She looked at her baby brother with such fierce love that Maya saw herself reflected back. That determination to protect, to love, to keep safe no matter what. Daniel started a foundation helping single parents get back on their feet. Job training, childcare assistance, small business loans. He understood now, in a way he never could have before, how hard it was to climb out of poverty when you had a child depending on you. Maya ran the photography program, teaching other single mothers a skill they could use to support themselves. They helped people the way Daniel had once helped Maya, except now they built systems instead of one-time gestures. Real change, real hope. On their 3rd anniversary, Maya found Daniel outside on their small porch after the kids were asleep. The brownstone wasn't a penthouse and their life wasn't glamorous, but it was theirs, built on love instead of convenience, on choice instead of obligation. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked, settling beside him. "The company, the power, all of it?" Daniel pulled her close. "Not even for a second." He kissed her temple. "You know what I think about?" "What?" "That rainy night. You climbing into my car by mistake. Looking so tired and desperate, holding Lily like she was your whole world." "Because she was," he smiled. "Best mistake that ever happened to me." "I thought my ride had come," Maya laughed. "I was so embarrassed when I realized." "Your ride did come," Daniel said softly. "It just took you somewhere better than you'd planned." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the street. An ordinary neighborhood on an ordinary night. Nothing fancy or impressive. Just two people who'd found each other when they'd both stopped believing in second chances. Inside, Lily called out from her room. "Mama, Daddy, I need water." They looked at each other and laughed. "I'll go," Daniel said, standing. "You went last time." Maya watched him head inside. This man who'd been a cold CEO and was now the kind of father who got up in the middle of the night without hesitation. She thought about how far they'd both come, how much they'd both changed. Sometimes the wrong turn leads you exactly where you need to be. Sometimes getting lost is how you find home. And sometimes love shows up in a car you weren't supposed to be in, with a person you never expected to meet. On a rainy night when you'd run out of options and hope, Maya had climbed into that car with nothing but her daughter in desperation. She'd found a family, a future, and a love that proved the best things in life aren't planned. They're the beautiful accidents that change everything, if you're brave enough to hold on when the world says let go. From inside, she heard Daniel reading Lily a bedtime story, heard their son making baby noises in his crib, and smiled. This was wealth. This was success. This messy, loud, perfectly imperfect life they'd built together. And it had all started with getting into the wrong car on the right night.